Hello, hello, everyone. This is Jeanette the Oracle. I'm still having a little bit of computer and internet issues, so hopefully things will be able to maintain. If not, I will record this separately and then just upload it. But otherwise, we're just going to go ahead and get into it. Quick announcements. First and foremost, enrollment is open through June 19th. Which is the day before summer solstice, but through June 19th for the Library Incubator. So if you have been thinking about it, if your spirit's been calling you, if your ancestors have been kind of knocking on the door about being a part of this upcoming cohort, I invite you to learn more about the program and apply. Information is at the link that's in the description below, so check that out. This will be the last cohort for the year because we only do it twice a year. So we have the winter one that's wrapping up right now, and this is going to be the summer cohort, which will be starting in July, and we'll go through December. So if you don't get in now, you won't be able to get in until next year. So definitely come through. I would love to have you. Of course, when you apply, you will be able to set up a time to connect with me so that we can actually chat and talk about the program. I can answer any questions that you may have about it and make sure that this is a good fit and it's the best time for you right now. But otherwise, yeah, I would love to have you. So again, join the Lightworker Incubator, submit your application as soon as possible. You have through June 19th in order to do so. Also, of course, we still have the membership covenant going strong. The sermon was just dropped from Reverend Portia on Sunday, and that was such a good message. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. Information about the membership can be found also at the link below in the description. This weekend coming up, we have affirmation audios for spirit-led leaders. That's going to be coming from Atia Bloom. And then on the 15th, which is Saturday after next, I'm going to be doing a live workshop there in the space. So, excuse me, definitely check that out and come through. You can join the membership at any time. Of course, it is nice because Incubator is only available for entry twice a year. But with Covenant, you can join at any time and come through, okay? Welcome to everybody who's coming in. Welcome. Thank you for letting me know where you're joining from, UK and with water. Beautiful. Cool. So, yeah. And I believe that is it for announcements. So I do want to get in. I believe the message is actually going to be relatively short today, about 15, 20 minutes, because I think this is actually supposed to be broken up into several parts. As you can see from the title, the topic for today is nation building. And so essentially I've been sitting with Source about nation building that's going to be specific to the US because that's where I am. But you know, some of the messages may or may not be relevant to where you are, you know, depending. So these are actions to take to address building a nation that is equitable for all. Okay. So the 4 areas that I will be speaking about today, unless I get told to go longer, but I think we're just going to stick with 4 for right now, is the spirit of the nation, the physical infrastructure, communication, so communication channels, journalism, things like that, as well as the people themselves. Okay, so the actual populace, the actual citizens. Welcome, welcome from Inglewood. Got coffee and water. Beautiful. Thank you for joining. Love to see you. Okay. So right now are the topics. So yeah, the intention is actually this will be pretty short just to sit with this. And then in terms of relevance, you know, these are these are areas that you can focus, that we can focus work and service around, because the work that we do in spirituality is not limited to ourselves. We do understand as we go on a spiritual walk that um, everything essentially is the same issues and stuff that we're dealing with. It's just at different scales. The appearance may be different, but the core issues, the core things going on are the same. So, you know, obviously, with the work that I do, the priority is making sure that we prioritize soul sovereignty. But one of the things that, is important for me to continue to talk about, that I've touched on a little bit over the years, but to continue to talk about, what needs to be occurring um, as guided by source for building the nation. Okay. So with that being said, I think we can begin. Unless there's anything else, hold on. For context, if you have not already watched last week's Oracle Talks, which was on the topic of hope and faith, definitely go back and watch that as a foundational message. Okay. All right, so for when it comes to the spirit of the nation, okay, how it behaves, how it sees itself, we have the Five of Cups in reverse. So what was coming through for that for me was the action to take was to not to continue to look to the past, essentially being trapped in this state of nostalgia um, for a state to go back to, right? Um, Now, obviously, on the far right, you have this, make America great again thing and wanting to kind of revert us back. So on the surface, yes, that as well. But this is for everyone, like the spirit of the nation um, actually has to get out of this nostalgic patterning of the good old days, of trying to go back to what was. Like, that actually has to be let go of, and that's what's needed to be grappled with. And it's also letting go of obsession in general. So whatever you know is being obsessed over, and specifically as it relates to power, needs to be let go. So the spirit of the nation is grappling with that. Personally, I think that's a really good thing, because that relates to doing self-reflection. And um, if you're grappling with something, that means that you are in that process of coming out of it. It is a process of transformation, but yeah, in order to break through to the other side, dealing with these issues of trying to go back to what it was, trying to obsess over power, dealing with issues of misuse of power, all of those things are inherent with what the spirit of the nation is having to grapple with. Now, as it relates to the physical infrastructure, we have the Nine of Wands. So when I refer to physical infrastructure, I'm meaning literally nationwide infrastructure. So roads, highways, the pipes. We just had this terrible, I'm going to call it tragedy, just occurred in Atlanta over this past week, of the water pipes bursting. The dams, the electrical grid, structure, foundations for housing, like all of that stuff, all of the physical infrastructure, the transportation of goods and that transportation network. Yeah, just all of that. With the Nine of Wands in reverse, like, that is crumbling and that needs to be addressed. Obviously, that is not necessarily going to be new information for folks who've been paying attention, but in particular, like, this has to be addressed because it is going to continue to um, kind of deconstruct in a way that occurs more rapidly and is just something that has to be dealt with. It's like it's an issue that has to be dealt with, and there has to be proactivity around it. So that has to be addressed, and resources have to be shifted to deal with those things. The resources are there; they always have been, right? Um, but yeah, the infrastructure is crumbling because it's just in need of repair and in need of care. Because again, these types of structures are representative of things that have been in place for decades or even like a century, depending on the case. So, um, we're at that time again where it's like, oh, we need to now reinvest, reinvigorate, rework this for the next several decades or really next century. So that forward thinking, that future focus, that visioning is what is in place. So this is actually going to be this message. Sorry, I was getting like called again. Um, this nation building message is a global message. It is for all countries because all countries are actually dealing with this on some level. These things that I'm addressing. It's like a collect. It's like a collective come to Jesus. Okay, I got a matcha latte in case anyone's wondering. All right, so in terms of communication channels, journalism, news, things like that, we have the 10 of Wands. So there is definitely an obstacle, if you will, or block to um, on the surface of receiving information, receiving news from a variety of sources, because there's pretty much only a few players who are in control of the main communication channels. So that may, again, on the surface, give the impression of communication and communication channels being blocked, journalism being blocked, news being blocked, etc. So that is on the surface. Those are the two big wands in front. However, if you see behind those two large wands, you see 8 additional wands. And those are the variety of other communication channels, news, journalism, what have you, that are in play, that have their own individual power, that have a strong foundation, that have been going for a while. They are already steady. So at this level of awareness, there is awareness of like, okay, you have the big dogs, and then you have the kind of medium-sized or small to medium-sized dogs who are also in the fight, and there seems to be a bit of a stalemate. And so as I sat with that energy a little bit more, I was like, okay, what's the action to take? Because this seems like it's not moving, because the big dogs, the energy is one of defense and stop, because they don't want you to be able to see or be aware of something else. However, as the action to take for people in general, the populace, is to give more and more of your attention to those other channels, the small and medium-sized communication channels, news outlets, journalism, media outlets, etc. Like that's where you actually need to go. Oh, hopefully I'm still here. Wi-Fi is a little weird, but hopefully I'm still good. So And doing that actually will help to dissolve and erode the power of defense and blocking that the larger, fewer channels actually have. Okay. So it's not a like fight energy. It's really just a take the amount of focus and attention and direct it to these other areas and um, let that energy actually help to proliferate those other channels. So what could that look like? It could be, you know, signing up for those newsletters and reading those newsletters, paying for those if they have, you know, a paywall. It could be you know, subscribing to their channels on YouTube if they have that. It could be watching them on other networks that they may be on, like any of these independent channels. It could be buying their magazines, signing up for their magazines, following them on socials, engaging with their work. All of that helps to build up again. And I'm getting more like the medium-sized companies more so than the small, because the medium-sized they are there and they're like collectively like have a lot of power to kind of hold the fort down. So so they would be, you know, avenues for getting information that are relatively well known and again have been around for a while. So continue to give them, if you're not already, your attention. And then lastly, for the populace, we have the Knight of Wands. So this is definitely the energy of transformation. There is a collective moving in a direction of shift and change. Now, whether or not this is going to be, you know, constructive or destructive is going to depend on, you know, who is involved. But I am getting a vibe of uh, a unification of heading in the same direction, even though the tactics are different. So the constructive and destructive are like on parallel paths. And there's kind of like a cohesion now, a waking up now of a lot more people than might have been in the past. Um, and it's less focused on one particular area to address and more just a general like everything needs to change vibe, which is new and I would say different from probably like the past. Well, at least in this country. I don't know about other places, but there is a believe it or not, a unification on these parallel paths. So folks are coalescing on one path that is a little bit more destructive or more going towards that nostalgia, trying to maintain power, maintain structures that have been there in the past. And then there's another group that is wanting more transformation, more equity, you know, balance of power, future focused, vision focused, you know, thinking of a new possibility. So essentially the populace that is more future focused about building the new, um, again equitable, going on that path, that is the path that leads down more of that straight and narrow, whereas this other path that ultimately is more aligned to that constructive or more the past is actually going to be would take us down a path of veering off. So this new future is, I mean, at the when all is said and done, depending on how much time, it will ultimately come to pass. But the road we take to get there, the constructive or deconstructive path, is something that the population, the populace is going to be deciding. And this is the population, the populace for all. Oh, am I still showing up? Hopefully I am. Keep seeing my Wi-Fi thing go in and out. So um hopefully it's being caught. I prefer the path of least suffering, but I also know that's not necessarily the path that is easy or soft. I'll say that again. I personally prefer the path of least suffering, but I also know, i.e., the most direct path, right? This constructive path. But I also know that that path is not necessarily the easiest or the softest. Okay. It a lot of times will be the harder path. I personally am someone who would rather, as annoying and frustrating as it is, as infuriating, as enraging, as saddening, as grieving, etc., as it is, I would rather do that up front and get through the process faster than be in something for a longer time and be placated into a state of apathy of like, this is good enough, and to be sitting in that for a long period of time. That's me personally. But again, this is a collective thing. So um, transformation collectively, especially as deep as this is feeling, um, it's going to be a rough experience regardless. But um, yeah, essentially we determine what that is. All right. Um, I think that's going to be it. I mean, those are the four things I'm going to touch on. I am going to wait and get into other areas at the next Oracle Talks. I'll be open for just a few questions if anyone has, while things seem to still be relatively steady on the stream. But if there are no questions, I will close it at that. And again, these messages are about actions to take. So actions to take as a nation, regardless of where you are. And please understand this also relates to you and your life personally as well, because we are a microcosm of the world around us. So any areas in this where these themes are coming up, you can keep that in mind. But if there's not any personal relevance, then there are at least external actions that will line up with these messages for you to be taking externally. Okay. Any questions, comments, thoughts before we bounce? I think I got most of these messages out in 15 minutes. Excluding announcements, but we're good. Okay. So I'm assuming we will come back to this next week unless I get diverted to something else. But to recap, letting go of nostalgia, letting go of obsession, addressing misuse of power, addressing infrastructure that is crumbling, physical, nationwide infrastructure, statewide infrastructure, citywide infrastructure that is transportation, et cetera, agriculture, et cetera, that needing to be addressed. Communication channels, give more attention to the other players that are out there that have been there for a while, that already have structure, stability, and give them more energy, essentially more attention. And that will help resolve the malevolent blocking from the main players. And then for the populace in general, regardless of where you are, your perspective, your beliefs, political leanings, and things like that, this energy of transformation is there for everyone. This is awakened in everyone. Um, but essentially, you have constructive path or destructive path. Choose which one you want to be focused on. If it is one that is focused on trying to get us back to what we were before, because you think what was before or an aspect of it was a good old days, and if we just kind of put that back in place, everything will be fine. That's an indication that like we're not doing this, right? That Five of Cups in reverse. The constructive is going to be looking forward, is going to be rooted in an equitable society for all, regardless of whether or not we, you know, like someone or not. All righty, y'all. So that is this part one message. Take from that what you will. Again, if you are interested in coming for the Lightworker Incubator, you can apply at the link down below in the description box. Enrollment is open through June 19th. Okay. This will be the last incubator for the year, so please don't delay if you're interested. Come through. We will chat and talk when you apply, just to make sure that this is good for you right now. If it's not, I will tell you no. Right? It's definitely not a money grab, so it needs to be something that is supportive for you right now. And if it is supportive, like, you know, source, your ancestors, your team, your life will be supportive of that. And then if that is not calling to you, I would invite you, regardless, to join Covenant, which is the monthly membership. And yeah, be with us there, because that is lovely space. And when you join, regardless of when you join, you do get access to previous offerings that we dropped in the space. So you don't have to worry about like missing out on all the good stuff. You get access to all of it because we keep it in a repository for you. So that's it for my announcements. That's it for today's message on nation building. We will be back, God willing, of course. But blessings to all. Happy new moon in Gemini, depending on when you watch this. And God willing, I'll see you next time.